Hi everyone. I didn't think it would be this zoomed in. Hello everyone and welcome to another video. I am super excited today because my Amazon package just arrived. Now, if you guys watched my video last week, I was just talking about how frustrated I was over how our local bookstores here in the Philippines it carries a lot of popular titles. I don't see anything wrong with that because I know people love reading Taylor Jenkins Reid, like myself. They love reading books by Sally Rooney, Colleen Hoover, and Stephen King even. There's a lot of popular titles. There's a lot of like Love Hypothesis books, lots of copies. You'll find that in our local bookstore. But I was really looking for titles that are less, again, mainstream. So I made an order in Amazon for the first time by myself. I mean, not my first time. I usually have like my aunt come over. I mean, I don't have her come over, but whenever she comes over, I always order from Amazon and send it to their address in the United States. I just think it's a lot cheaper that way. But then I found out that you can actually order books and enjoy free shipping. Now, I know some of you are going like, oh my gosh, that service has been around for ages, but it's literally my first time to have a delivery straight from Amazon and up to my doorstep. I thought that it would take months, but then the delivery promised that it would arrive by the 16th, and I'm filming this video on March 12th, so it's a few days early of the delivery, and I'm really amazed. Now, the order was fulfilled by Ninja Fan, and I got all 3 books today. I'm super excited. I'm gonna share some of the titles with you in a bit. So basically, all you need to do to fulfill the delivery is to have a credit card and an Amazon account. Just a big disclaimer, not every item is on free shipping. So there are only certain books that you can get for free shipping, and then you would have to make a purchase of at least $49. Not so sure with other items. I've only ordered purely just books. So what books did I order? So glad you asked. Well, the first one is actually a copy. Actually, my sister ordered this. Is by Darcy Coates. It's called The Hunting of Blackwood House. Second book is my very own copy. I'm so happy. I have been seeing this book on Pinterest and Instagram, and I really wanted to read it. I think it's so cute. Hopefully it gives that little bit of like Ghibli vibes. It's called The Encyclopedia of Fairies by Emily Wilde. And the third book I just ordered is All the Dangerous Things by Stacey Willingham. I am so excited. I had heard so many great things about this book. I have been on the prowl for a good thriller. I think like I was a little bit disappointed by The Silent Patient. I did post a recent review of that book. I'll link that down below. So I've really been on the hunt for like a good thriller, and I have heard so many things, as I've said, about this book, and I can't wait to get started. So obviously that means I'll have to move Carrie Soto is back down my to be read list. I'll probably move the Star Wars book that I got down to my to be read list as well. I'm currently reading A Gentleman in Moscow. I am halfway done through that book. I love it. I think it gives me a lot of the Grand Budapest vibe, mainly because it's set in a hotel, and I'm hoping to finish that book within this week. So that all said, because I haven't finished A Gentleman in Moscow, I thought I would just talk about podcasts instead for this video. Now, you guys all know that I do work from home, and one big benefit from working from home is that you get to cook your meals, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And one thing that I love to do while cooking, I know I can cook now. For anyone who's watching who used to be friends with me when I was in my younger adult years, you guys would know that I can't cook to save my life. Anyway, yeah, I cook now, and I love to listen to podcasts while doing it. But one big genre that I tend to stick to when listening to podcasts is the crime and mystery genre. So that all said, and as you might have guessed from the title of this video, I'll be sharing some of my true crime or mystery podcast with you guys. Now, all you avid podcast listeners probably know all about the first podcast on my list, and that's Crime Junkie. Crime Junkie is hosted by none other than Ashley Flowers. She is one of the biggest names in the podcast world. She also recently forayed into the world of mystery novels with her debut book, All Good People Here. Now, on the show, Ashley is actually joined by her friend Britt, who is a nice addition to the podcast, but if you're a first-time podcast listener, her presence would kind of get a while to get used to. Many people actually think Ashley could carry the podcast alone, but I think Brett is somebody you'll eventually get used to if you've been listening to the show for a while. Of course, you kind of understand why Brett is there in the first place. This is a scripted show, and she is like somebody who represents us, the listener. But in my opinion, the way that she delivers her line is a little bit obvious as she reads from a script. But of course, I could be wrong. And that's like my major call out from this show. I still love this show, and I would definitely recommend that you guys check it out. One of my most favorite episodes from Crime Junkie was the one with freaking John E. Douglas, criminal profiler extraordinaire. He's the dude in Mindhunter, at least the guy that Jonathan Groff plays, like the real version of him. That episode covered the case of Shari Smith and Deborah Helmick. Ashley's narration is actually so top tier here. I also do find their two-part episode on Maura Murray really good too, so be sure to check that out. Another podcast that I really do enjoy is 48 Hours. I think the episodes hosted by Erin Moriarty are pretty good. One of the episodes that I really couldn't forget was the tree that helped solve the murder. It's so interesting, and it just makes you feel so frustrated and fascinated at the end of the episode. I also really like their coverage of the Murdaugh trial. If you aren't from the States, you probably wouldn't be as familiar of this trial as somebody from there. But if you're like within the true crime hemisphere, you're always keeping up to date with the latest happenings in the genre, then you would have heard about this family. And if you haven't, you can check out their episode. It's a really good summary if you don't want to spend 3 hours watching the Netflix documentary. They also did really good summaries of the Idaho student cases and also the Eric Smith case. So if you have heard of these trials, of these investigations, and want a quick but detailed summary, then definitely check 48 Hours. Now, the second podcast on my list is actually Dateline. And you guys have heard of Dateline, I'm pretty sure. Dateline is very similar to 48 Hours in terms of formats. I get it, like they're both TV shows or actual news coverage has been converted to podcast formats. My only comment from Dateline is that the episodes can sometimes run for as long as 2 hours. So I really have to split like 30 minutes in the morning to listen to the first part, and then 30 minutes for the next part, and then 30 minutes when I'm cooking dinner for the ending. But of course, I love Dateline, and Keith Morrison, he's such an icon, and he has such this like iconic way of telling and narrating a story. I really did enjoy how they covered the Janelle Matthews case. If you don't know who she was actually a young 12-year-old girl who mysteriously disappeared just as she went home in 1984. Now, I won't narrate that story here. That's not what this channel is all about. This is not a true crime channel. Instead, I'll invite you guys to check out that episode by Dateline. This was actually also covered by 48 Hours too, but Dateline just did it better. So if you're interested, you can totally check it out on Spotify. The episode is actually called Footprints in the Snow. One of the most gripping Dateline episodes that I recently listened to was actually on a dark desert highway. I did, no joke, like I burst into tears while listening to that episode. It actually took me like 2 days to finish that podcast because it was so difficult to finish because you couldn't help but feel for the victims. I could warn you though that before you actually listen to this episode that it has depictions of animal cruelty, spousal abuse, conspiracy, religious cult. It has it all. The next podcast I would definitely recommend is something local. I really do like the Lagim podcast hosted by Christine Abigana. The podcast actually covers so many infamous Filipino cases like the Ozone Disco incident, the Kian de los Santos case, the Manila hostage crisis, the whole fiasco with Kiboloy, the Christine da Serra case, and also some lesser known cases like the Emelita Reeves case, the story of Karen Empeno and Sherlyn Cadapan. I really feel like Christine does justice by detailing the victim stories and just highlighting them instead of the perpetrators. Now, this is a country full of politically driven crimes and police brutality, so you'll definitely see a lot of those themes there. And I'm so glad someone is like bringing these cases to the public and showing everyone what kind of monstrosity the Philippines actually deals with on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, basically those are the podcasts that I listen to on a weekly basis. I also do listen to a lot of Kendall Ray, but I do think that it's a lot more enjoyable if you watch her episodes from her YouTube channel. But I like that she covers different types of crimes, from fraud to scam. I also listen to a lot of Wondery podcasts, but I don't really like the reenactments, the voice reenactments, so they're just really like on the last of my list whenever like I don't have anything to listen to. One podcast that I used to follow a lot but stopped listening to is Something Was Wrong. I think that's hosted by Tiffany Reese. Know that the podcast was acquired by Ashley Flowers and her production company Audio Chuck. So you kind of like expect it to be a lot more interesting, right? But I don't think that's unfortunately the case. I feel like the stories are very important. They should be told because it talks a lot about emotional trauma, PTSD, and it just lifts up the survivors. But there's something about the format. I guess maybe I just feel like the episodes tend to be a little bit stretched out that I eventually lost interest along the way. Now, don't get me wrong, there are like solid episodes there, but it eventually becomes unlistenable. I don't know. I just feel like the podcast stopped clicking with me. Let me know if I'm wrong. Let me know if I'm missing out, because I do want to give it another go. And that's genuine. That's my list of my favorite podcasts and the episodes that you guys should totally check out. Do you have a favorite podcast that you would totally recommend to me that's not on this list, or an episode I might have not seen on any of the podcasts that I mentioned on this list? If you do, please do share it on the comment below. And while you're at it, please leave a like, and if you haven't already and if you want to, please do subscribe. It really does help my channel. I'll see you guys on my next video. Thank you for watching. Bye!